Hello, this is Informationator, Super Nintendo collector, and moderator of Reddit's game collecting community at gamecollecting.reddit.com. I've written an extensive cleaning and restoration guide for Super Nintendo games, which I've linked in the video's information area, but at the request of one of our members, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I go about cleaning games. Yes, this is a long video of me showing you how to clean a Super Nintendo game, so if that's not what you're looking for, you might want to try another video. But if you want to see some details on how to restore games, then go ahead and watch, and here is the game I'm going to be cleaning. So you can see it is disgusting, like most NES or Super Nintendo games you'll buy. So I'm going to show you how to get some of the grime off of here. First thing I do is go ahead and open it up with a 3.8mm bit. You can buy these on eBay, they're pretty cheap. Some of them aren't that great, so try to buy like a steel one. This one's lasted me for many hundreds of games. So see, I've taken apart the game. I always take it apart before I start cleaning, just to break it up into sections. So I'm going to use 91% isopropyl alcohol. It's just a few bucks at Walmart or wherever. There's no reason to use 70%. All it does is evaporate slower. So use 91%, it evaporates really fast, and it does a little bit better job of cleaning stuff. So I usually start by cleaning the sides, and it's not just because that side's dirty. I pretty much always start by cleaning the sides. I use a cotton cloth with a good nap on it. Nap is just like the fuzzy, cushiony part of a washcloth, I guess. You don't want to use a worn out one. So that way the dirt can get caught in the nap of the washcloth. So yeah, just going around cleaning all the edges. You want to get in every little crevice, and even if an area looks clean to you, go ahead and clean it anyway, because the odds are it's sticky and gross, and even if it looks gray and perfectly clean, you'll wipe over it with a white rag and it'll be brown. So who knows what kind of AIDS and cancer these cartridges have. You can see there on the washcloth just how gross it is. So I'm just wiping all of the flat surfaces initially. Now you can see it's gross down in the grooves as well, but we'll get to that here in a minute. You want to be careful to avoid brushing over the label if you can while you've got alcohol in the cotton cloth, because it's not harmful for plastics, but it is harmful to labels. It'll break them down if it sets on there too long. So if you get any on there, wipe it off really fast. Yeah, going over the bottom part. And this is just kind of like broad cleaning right now. I'll get down into the detailed stuff later, but you know, I guess it depends on like how much you care about how clean it is. I go like way overboard with my games, just because I want them as close to new as I can get them. Every edge, even the inside. Sometimes people will put security stickers inside of these, like Blockbuster and other rental shops. They'll put like stickers that have metal in the sticker. They usually have really, really strong adhesive. And what you can do is you can pull the sticker off, and you can use duct tape to basically like tear off the adhesive. So just like put it on the plastic where the adhesive is, pull it away, put it back on, pull it away, put it back on, pull it away. When a piece of duct tape gets worn out, just get a new piece and keep doing that till all the adhesive is gone. So now I'm getting to the point where I'm going to clean those grooves. I'm using a soft bristle toothbrush. I just dipped it in the alcohol, and I go ahead and scrub all the junk out of those grooves. This is a point where I think about like NES collectors and how many grooves are on NES games. Just Google it. And they must be disgustingly frustrating to clean if there's junk down in those, because they're not linear like those. But yeah, just scrubbing. The thing is, when you're cleaning crud out of the grooves, and it kind of depends on how dirty the game is, but as you're cleaning, guess what you're doing? You're just like putting more junk on the flat surface you cleaned before this. So what you'll see me do is, after I clean all the junk out of the grooves, I go back and wipe down the surface again with a cotton cloth. So I clean it, and I clean it again. So I figure that way any residue that's drying on top of the flat surface from what I've cleaned out of the grooves gets cleaned away too. Yeah. While you're watching this, might as well mention, if you have stickers on labels, a couple techniques you can use is use a hair dryer a few inches away, like 3 to 5 inches away, on low, not on high. You don't want to melt the label. And blow it across the label, like in a sweeping motion back and forth for a couple of minutes until the game is warm. That'll kind of help loosen up the adhesive so that you can slowly and very carefully pull it off of the label. I've done it many times, and the label is just perfect after I take the sticker off. It doesn't damage it at all. If the label's already damaged, you're probably just going to tear it, and there's nothing you can do. But another thing is, while you can use alcohol and duct tape to clean adhesive off of plastic, you can't do that with a label. What I recommend using is eucalyptus oil. You can buy it at like Whole Foods. It's pretty expensive. It's like $20 for a little jar of it, and I mean really little, but you don't have to use that much. You use like a drop each time. It's totally harmless on labels. It smells pretty strong, but what I do is you can wet a label with it, and it will soften up the adhesive, and that'll help it come off. It also cleans residue from a sticker you took off of a label, and without damaging the label. So what I do so that my game doesn't smell like eucalyptus oil is I'll use it to clean off the adhesive, and then I'll immediately wipe that off with a lightly damp microfiber cloth. So that way you get to use it, but it doesn't end up smelling like eucalyptus oil after. At worst, it's a really, really faint smell. So at this point, I'm using a Q-tip to get into all the grooves that I couldn't hit with the cotton cloth that I was using. And sometimes you'll just scrub and scrub and scrub and scrub, and there's some like one little hardened speck right in the corner of a groove. And I'll just use some kind of hard edge, like the end of tweezers or the end of a nail file or something, to kind of like push on it. Usually it'll pop off. But you want to be careful not to like stab it into the plastic, otherwise you'll just gash it and kind of defeats the whole purpose of trying to restore it. So yeah, this was the part I mentioned earlier where, now I've cleaned everything, and I'm just doing one more pass to clean it all again now that I've gotten all of the major gross junk off. And usually it does pick up just a little bit more. So all of the 20-year-old boogers on your cartridge will be cleaned off. So front half's looking pretty good. And you're like, man, you spend a lot of time doing this. Yeah, it takes a long time. And it kind of depends on how bad the game is. This one was pretty dirty. Most of them have some like spot that's really bad on it that I need to clean, or it'll have Sharpie dried on, or but some of them are just kind of like generally dirty. And 20 years, it's kind of hard not to get a little dirty with people just touching it and putting it in a system, pulling it out of a system. Stuff on your hands is going to get on the cartridge over time. So even if they look clean, I still clean them, and always tons of stuff comes off of them. So I'm not a germaphobe or anything, but I like cleaning them. Most of these games, when I get them, they're sticky. Like there's some kind of film on them. It's like when you handle money and you have that grime on your hands that you can feel just by touching the money once. Most of these games are kind of like that, so that's why I do this. Also, just as a collector, it's kind of like restoring a piece of history. So I want to, get them in the best condition I can when I add them to my collection. So just going over every surface, cleaning everything I can. Same thing I did with the front side, cleaning all the major surfaces, being careful to avoid the back label, cleaning this one's kind of dirty on the back, so cleaning that out, on the inside of the back. Yeah, just using a Q-tip to go into the little grooves that I couldn't hit with the cloth. And these corners are really sharp. Like even with a Q-tip, you're not going to get into the very, deepest section of the corners. These rounded sides, you can get everything with a Q-tip. but the inside of those corners in the inside of the cartridge you can't hit. So later I'll use the toothbrush to just kind of like flick out anything that's in those corners. And see there, I might have gotten some alcohol in the label. If you get any alcohol, just immediately wipe it off. So that's what I'm doing when I'm kind of wiping across the label with my finger, just to make sure that none of it soaks in, because if alcohol along with like dirty particulates soaks into the side of your label, once it dries, those particulates that soaked into the side along with the alcohol are going to leave it stained. Now, I've had plenty of times where I screwed up and the cartridge was mostly clean and alcohol got into the side of the label, and it looked bad, but it takes longer to dry than like on plastic. But once it dries, the kind of like dark part where it got stained by the alcohol fades, and it looks fine most of the time. So just cleaning all of these. It's a lot easier to accidentally get alcohol in the label just because these grooves go right up to the edge of where the label is. But this one's in pretty good shape. There's a couple of little flaws on the edge of the label, but nothing too bad. So this is where I'm kind of just like getting anything that got stuck in the very edges of the corners out with that toothbrush. And a lot of the time there is junk stuck in the corners, so looking pretty good. Pretty much clean, just kind of giving it a visual once over. Sometimes you'll go over grooves over and over with the toothbrush and everything will be clean, and then there's one little like hard speck stuck down in the groove, so you can just use your fingernail to pop it out. So now I'm cleaning the circuit board. This was kind of like common problem in NES days. It's really more of a problem with the 72 pin connectors in the NESs and the way the pins would bend and get loose and not pinch the game like they were supposed to, but people would blow on their cartridges, which actually is not the good thing to do. The reason the games aren't playing is either it's usually a combination of the games being dirty and the 72 pin connectors being loose in those old NESs. Well, you blow on it, you're just blowing more junk into the cartridge and getting it dirtier. So I'm using alcohol and a Q-tip to scrub that. You can see the Q-tip was dirty. So at this point, the video feed just died. I don't know what happened. It just cut out, and I kept going, of course, but I didn't know that the camera had stopped filming. But I was pretty much done at this point. There's only a few more things that I did. After I cleaned the circuit board, I just put it back in there, back into the back half of the cartridge. And there's only a few more things I do at this point. One is the two little screws that keep the game together. I take those and I kind of rub them back and forth across my cleaning cloth to polish them a little bit, because a lot of time they'll be kind of dirty or tarnished. That makes them shine, and then I screw them back in. At that point, there's just kind of a little bit of surface cleaning usually to do on the labels. There will be, like oils from people's hands, and it'll just kind of look dull. So just get a really fine microfiber cloth, just dampen it slightly in water, not alcohol, and really lightly wipe in little circles across the label, and then dry it with another part of the cloth. And I say lightly because not just because you don't want to you don't want to damage the label, obviously, but in the bottom center of Super Nintendo games, there's a little dimple, and if you push too hard, you'll dent the label down into that dimple. You'll usually see someone will have already done it, but if the label's like perfectly flat, you might be the one to do it if you're not careful. So I wipe down the front and back label like that. Usually there's brown gunk on my microfiber cloth, even though the label might look pretty good before, and it looks even better after I clean it. The only remaining thing I do, and you don't have to do this, usually you won't pick much up, but if the label was dirty and something was kind of like on the label and the plastic and goes over the edge of the label, there's kind of a little depression around the edges of a label where you can take just a very small piece of cotton and just kind of drag it all the way down that plastic edge all the way around the label, and you'll usually pick up some stuff too. At that point, I'm totally done. The cartridge is just about as clean as it's ever been. You've cleaned all of the junk from all of 20 years off of it. So that is how I clean Super Nintendo cartridges. It takes a lot of time, but they end up pristine afterward, and as long as you take care of them, they'll last a really long time. So hope that helped. If you have any questions, post them in the comments, or even better, come to gamecollecting.reddit.com and post in our forum, and we'll be happy to help you out. Thanks.